Ethan Carter was a devoted family man, working tirelessly to support his wife, Lila, and their daughter, Chloe, in Pennsylvania. He had steadily climbed the corporate ladder, and their life seemed to be stable and built on mutual respect. While their marriage wasn't without its difficulties, Ethan was confident in the strength of their relationship. But Lila, feeling increasingly restless, yearned for something more exciting. Over time, her dissatisfaction grew, and she began seeking attention outside their marriage. Ethan, absorbed in his career and focused on Chloe, remained completely unaware of Lila's inner turmoil, trusting in the bond they shared. The discovery of her infidelity hit him like a ton of bricks. One morning, Ethan woke feeling uneasy after a night of fitful sleep. He had seen Chloe's boyfriend at the mall, kissing another girl. Knowing how much it would hurt Chloe, especially with an important volleyball match coming up, he decided to wait until after the game to tell her. Later, Ethan was called into a meeting with his boss, who introduced him to Gavin Mitchell, the former owner of a recently acquired plant in Daytona Beach. Ethan was offered a promotion to manage the maintenance team there, along with a 25% pay increase and a rent-free apartment for a year. Without hesitation, Ethan accepted the offer, thinking his wife would be thrilled with the move to a warmer climate. After the meeting, he drove Gavin to the airport, feeling hopeful. Chloe could finish her last semester in Daytona, away from her boyfriend. But as Ethan left the airport, he noticed a red Camry with a noticeable radiator parked outside a nearby motel. It looked like Lila's car, which had recently been damaged. His heart raced as he parked nearby, suspecting the worst. Not wanting to reveal himself, Ethan, driving a company car that Lila wouldn't recognize, decided to wait and see who was with her. He needed more answers, so he punctured the valve stem of her spare tire, knowing she'd call him for help if she ended up with a flat. Then he waited, his mind racing. About 30 minutes later, Ethan heard a curse near his car window and lowered it just a little. "Damn it, what now?" Lila muttered. "Don't worry, ma'am. After a meal like that, I'm happy to help," came the reply from her companion. "I don't have a spare tire. My husband didn't put the wheel back in after fixing it," Lila complained. "What an idiot. Here, lower left. I always make sure my wife's car is in perfect shape. I shouldn't have come with you today." "What now?" he asked. "Let's go back to the room while I call for help," Lila suggested, and they both headed back to the motel. Ethan waited for her to call, but his phone remained silent. 20 minutes later, Ethan's heart sank even further when he saw Chloe's Honda Civic pull into the parking lot. She got out and walked to the motel, knocking on the door. A minute later, she returned with a tire from her trunk. As Lila and her lover approached, Leo said, "Pay for this so Chloe can play tonight. She needs to stay focused." "Thanks, Mom. If you cared, you'd have dressed before I got here. I need to get to school and prepare. Can you handle this from here?" Chloe asked, clearly frustrated. "No problem," Leo replied. "I'll get dropped off at Home Depot, and I'll be at your game tonight." "Thanks, Leo. Just don't sit too close to Mom. Dad will be there, and I don't want any drama." "Don't worry. I won't cause trouble," Leo chuckled. "Your dad won't even notice what's going on." "Leo, don't talk about Ethan like that. He's my husband and Chloe's father. He deserves respect," Lila snapped. Chloe shot back. "Respect after what you're doing? I just want to finish school and get out of this mess. I told you I love your father, and there won't be a divorce. We'll grow old together," Lila insisted. "You're delusional. Dad won't tolerate this forever, and Leo isn't worth it. You're just using each other while you can," Chloe fired back. "Dad has put just as much effort into this marriage," Lila argued. "Your father, he's nothing like that. He's a good husband and father," Lila laughed. Chloe turned to Leo. "Leo's a good guy, huh? But he's cheating on his wife with you. If he cared about his family, he wouldn't be here." "Enough, Chloe. This isn't up for debate. Get to school and focus. Leo and I will be at your game." "Doesn't make me feel any better," Chloe muttered. "Just keep him away from Dad. Leo may underestimate him, but Dad's not a pushover," Lila said. Chloe drove off, leaving Lila and Leo alone as he finished tightening the tire. "She's not too happy about us, is she? My daughter would react the same way. That's why I keep this hidden from both her and my wife. Chloe knows what's going on. She's just keeping quiet to avoid a divorce," Lila reassured him. Meanwhile, Ethan sat in the back seat of the company car, his mind spinning after Lila had driven away. Discovering her affair had been excruciating, but learning that Chloe knew and was somehow accepting of it broke him. He remembered the volleyball match was about to start, and for the first time in Chloe's high school career, he'd miss it. Too distraught to face his family, Ethan went home, had a few beers, and began to think about what to do next. The thought that Lila might not want to move to Florida because of her lover hit him hard. He bitterly recalled how loyal he had been and how she had betrayed his trust. Ethan realized Lila didn't know about the Florida move yet and would think he was headed to Michigan. He started to entertain the idea of relocating to Florida alone, allowing time to figure out his family situation while she stayed behind with Leo. The idea of leaving her there felt like a small act of revenge. With the weekend ahead, Ethan decided he'd head to Daytona after Thanksgiving. His wife and daughter would think he was going to Michigan, giving him space and a much-needed break. After taking some Dramamine and another beer, Ethan prepared to sleep in the guest room. He packed up his clothes and toiletries, locked the door and tried to sleep, though worry kept him tossing and turning for a while. Chloe noticed her dad's truck in the garage and wondered why he hadn't come to her game. Lila, surprised by the empty beer cans, went to check on him but couldn't find him anywhere. They eventually found Ethan asleep in the guest room, unresponsive to their attempts to wake him. "He must have been drinking," Chloe said, puzzled by his behavior and his absence at her game. "We'll ask him in the morning," Lila suggested. "He sometimes sleeps elsewhere to avoid spreading illness. Don't be too hard on him." Lila also mentioned that Leo thought Chloe played well and could get a scholarship, which annoyed Chloe. "I don't care what Leo thinks," Chloe snapped. "He's a cheating fool, and I wouldn't mind never seeing him again." "Why can't you be happy for me?" Lila complained. "Leo makes me feel young again. He makes me feel attractive." "I'm worried about Dad," Chloe responded, her voice full of concern. "If he finds out about Leo, it's going to break his heart." "That's exactly why he can't find out," Lila said. "I give your father everything he needs. Leo just gives me something extra." "Keep telling yourself that, Mom," Chloe replied. "But if you keep this up, Dad will find out, even if I'm not the one who tells him." "He won't suspect a thing if you keep quiet," Lila insisted. "Your father trusts me completely." At 5 a.m., Ethan woke up, got dressed, and quietly slipped out of the house. After grabbing breakfast at IHOP, his phone rang. "Ethan, are you okay?" Lila asked, her voice filled with worry. "You missed Chloe's match last night, and that's not like you." "I just wanted to do something unexpected," Ethan replied before hanging up and turning off his phone. The rest of the morning was spent packing his tools and personal items into his truck, preparing for the move. As the day wore on, Ethan felt increasingly confident about his decision to start fresh in Florida. He knew he had to keep his plans under wraps until after Thanksgiving, so Lila and Chloe would believe he was heading somewhere colder. Later in the afternoon, Ethan came home to find Lila fuming over his absence at the match. She confronted him angrily about his odd behavior. 2 days ago, he might have felt guilty, but now her anger seemed irrelevant. He simply nodded, then walked out of the house, heading to a sports pub for dinner. Surprisingly, he found he could still enjoy himself with a few drinks and some casual conversation with the other patrons. He returned home around 11 p.m. to find Lila and Chloe watching a movie. Lila sarcastically commented on his absence and demanded an apology. "Okay," Ethan muttered, grabbing his things for the next day and heading to the guest room. As he left, Chloe remarked, "He doesn't seem to care that you're upset. It's like he prefers sleeping in the guest room." "You don't know your father," Lila grinned. "He won't last 2 nights before he comes crawling back to me." "Maybe," Chloe said skeptically, "but I hope he doesn't find out about Leo." "Stop saying his name," Lila insisted, her tone sharp. "I want to keep this quiet." Chloe shot back. "If he isn't ready for his wife, maybe it's time you raised him." Lila was taken aback by her daughter's bluntness. Chloe had agreed to keep Leo a secret to prevent a divorce, but her growing disrespect was becoming hard to ignore. Lila struggled to balance being a good mother and lover, knowing her daughter was fully aware of the affair. She also began to wonder what had changed in Ethan over the past couple of days. His behavior was different, and she wasn't going to let it slide. But she was confident he'd come around eventually. After all, their sex life was too good for him to stay away for long. On Sunday, Ethan woke early again, grabbed breakfast at IHOP, and took a long walk in the park, savoring the cool November air. He appreciated the fresh start that awaited him in Florida, where he wouldn't have to deal with the harsh winter. By noon, he returned home with a six-pack, switched on the TV, and settled in to watch the Eagles game. Lila ignored him for an hour before storming out of the house. She returned around 6:30, and by 7 o'clock, when Ethan realized there was no dinner prepared, he turned off the TV and left again. He ended up at a local sports pub, enjoying ribs and watching football. The Eagles had beaten the Giants, and Ethan was in good spirits, looking forward to the Thanksgiving Day game against the Cowboys. "Dad's been acting weird lately, don't you think?" Chloe asked her mother. "He usually watches the game on Sundays. Did you two fight?" "We barely spoke," Lila replied with a sigh. "I told him he had to apologize for missing your match and drinking too much before he could sleep in my bed again. I also told him I'd cook for him, but only if his attitude changed. He'll miss my cooking and my love, and he'll apologize soon." When Ethan returned home, the game had become one-sided, so he left the bar early. He walked past Lila and Chloe and headed straight to the guest room. Lila felt an unexpected tension in the air. Over the next 3 days, Ethan remained silent, showing no intention of apologizing. His defiance unsettled her more than she wanted to admit. On Tuesday, Lila met Leo at the motel. While there, she had another flat tire, which made her wonder if these flats were really just coincidences. She decided she wasn't going to return to the motel again. Luckily, she'd had the spare tire fixed the previous day, and Leo had replaced it for her. Meanwhile, Ethan spent Monday packing up his things, getting ready for his move. He carefully arranged his clothes to make it look like he hadn't packed much, wondering if Lila would notice that he didn't take any cold weather gear. On Monday and Tuesday afternoons, Ethan parked at Home Depot, waiting for Lila to leave work. On Monday, she went grocery shopping afterward, so Ethan took the opportunity to have dinner at his new favorite bar and watch Monday Night Football. "Is Dad coming home today?" Chloe asked her mother. "Who knows?" Lila sighed, her frustration clear. "He's not talking to me and is still in the guest room. I don't know what's gotten into him. Could he have found out about Leo?" Chloe asked, her voice tinged with concern. "You told him he couldn't sleep with you, and you refused to cook for him. Why would he come home?" Lila shot back. "Maybe you should forgive him and cook him a nice meal tomorrow night," Chloe suggested. "I can't. I'm meeting Leo. You'll have to eat leftovers tonight. I'll be home later." "You're choosing Leo over Dad," Chloe pointed out, her voice laced with disappointment. "Leo's winning the game, at least," Lila snapped. "Leo treats me with respect and doesn't get drunk or hang up on me," Lila countered. "Does he take out the trash, mow the lawn, paint the house, pay the bills?" Chloe asked, her tone sharp. "Of course not," Lila shot back. "Leo just gets into bed with you. Dad does all the hard work, and you think Leo's the best just because he flatters you. You expect so much from Dad but give everything you have to Leo. It's not fair." Lila's anger flared. "I'm your mother. Show me some respect. Dad expects respect and loyalty, but he's not getting either," Chloe said, frustration rising in her voice. "Respect has to be earned, not just expected," Chloe muttered to herself, frowning as she turned away. Later that evening, Chloe caught Ethan as he walked past the living room. "I've got the district championship game tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Are you coming?" Ethan glanced at her, his response distant. "I'll check my schedule," he said, before heading upstairs without another word. I think he's mad at me too, Chloe sighed, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't do anything, but he doesn't seem to care. Something's off. Lila glanced at her daughter, trying to sound reassuring. Ethan's upset about something, but he doesn't know how to talk about it. He'll be there tomorrow, I'm sure of it. Look, his truck is still in the garage. But when Chloe's big moment arrived the next day and Ethan didn't show up at her game, tears filled her eyes. He didn't even want to come. Why does he hate me? Lila's heart twisted, but she tried to mask her concern. I'm not sure, honey, but we'll figure out what's going on. They returned home around 6:30, but Ethan was nowhere to be found. By 7 o'clock, another six-pack sat empty on the counter. No sign of him. It's not even 8 o'clock, Lila muttered, her worry growing. Where is he? He could be in bed already. But when they checked the guest room, Ethan was there, fast asleep and impossible to wake. They both exhaled in frustration, retreating to the living room. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. Do you think Dad will join us for dinner? Chloe asked quietly. Of course, Lila replied, trying to sound confident. This is his home too. His parents and mine will be here. I won't keep him away. Let's hope he's in a better mood by then. I've invited everyone for 4 o'clock. Who did you invite, Mom? Chloe asked, her tone wary. Please tell me Leo isn't coming. Leo and his wife are coming, Lila said, smiling at the thought. I think Ethan and Leo will get along. They both like football and hunting. Chloe shot her mother a sharp look. But one thing they share is you, Mom. You're out of your mind if you think this will go well. I think it'll be fine, Lila insisted, her voice firm. Ethan needs more friends. You're completely delusional. This is going to end badly, Chloe replied, shaking her head. We'll see, Lila said with more conviction than she felt. Ethan woke up early the next morning, slipped out of the house for a quiet breakfast at a local cafe. By 9 o'clock, he was home again, greeted by the familiar smells of turkey and pie. Dinner's at noon, Lila said brightly, trying to act normal. Everyone will be here soon. Want a drink? Ethan just shook his head and sank into the couch, flicking on the TV. He seemed indifferent to Lila's peace offerings. When his parents arrived, he greeted them politely, but the tension in the house was palpable. The moment dinner began, Ethan dropped a bombshell. I've been transferred to another plant. I leave tomorrow. This could last until spring or longer. Lila froze. Why didn't he tell me before now? Her mind raced. I knew he wouldn't want to move to Michigan. But this explains everything. Lila's mother, not knowing the full context, commented, Well, this is a surprise. Will you be going with him? No, Ethan replied, his voice flat. I'll go alone. I don't want to uproot Chloe or force Lila to leave her job. I'll manage on my own for a few months. As the grandparents discussed Michigan's cold weather, Lila and Chloe exchanged uneasy glances, both of them wondering if Ethan's distant behavior had more to do with leaving than he was letting on. After dinner, Ethan, his father, and Lila's father sat down to watch the Eagles game. But Ethan barely seemed to care about the game, his mind elsewhere. Then the doorbell rang. Ethan didn't react, his attention still on the TV. Lila walked over to greet the visitors. This is Claire and her husband, Leo, she said, introducing the couple with a smile. I'm sure you'll get along. Leo walked into the room wearing a Dallas Cowboys sweater, grinning widely. Hey, Ethemy. I've heard a lot about you, he said, extending a hand. Ethan's temper, which had been simmering for days, exploded in a split second. Without warning, he kicked Leo hard between the legs and then slammed a knee into his face, sending Leo crashing to the floor with a broken nose. The room fell into stunned silence. Claire screamed and rushed to Leo's side, while Lila rushed to the bathroom, vomiting from the shock. Chloe, wide-eyed, grabbed a washcloth and some ice, rushing to help Leo as best as she could. Ethan stood frozen for a moment, realizing what he'd just done. But there was no time for regret. He grabbed his coat and stormed out of the house. Ethan drove south on Highway 81, stopping only when he reached Hillsville, Virginia. He rented a room at a roadside motel, too exhausted to think. By the next morning, he checked his phone to find it flooded with messages. He deleted them all without reading, ignoring calls from his mother, Lila, and Chloe. His mind was set, he was leaving everything behind. As he continued his drive south on Highway 77, he kept replaying the events from the night before. Leo had definitely deserved it, but what would the fallout be? Could he lose everything? His job? His family? He left his phone on, deciding he would check the messages later, but not answer any calls. 30 minutes later, a text from Lila popped up. "Ethan, call me. I know the transfer has you rattled, but you need to pull it together. Leo's nose is broken, and he'll need surgery, but he's not pressing charges. Please call me." Ethan let the message sit there, unread. He kept driving until he reached his new apartment by 5 p.m. He retrieved the key from a safe, parked the truck in the garage, and unpacked, all while keeping his mind on his new life. He still had 2 days before he started his new job, and the apartment needed some repairs, which he planned to get to on Saturday. He knew Lila might try to track him down, so he decided to call her on Saturday morning. "Hello, Lila. It's Ethan. Where the hell have you been? We've been calling all night. Your phone's been off. And Leo, he's in the hospital with a broken nose and concussion. Are you out of your mind?" Ethan ended the call abruptly and turned off his phone. Then, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, he made a list of supplies to buy. An hour later, he returned with a new door lock, air filters, cleaning supplies, and a 30-pack of beer. At noon, he called Chloe. "I'm glad you called. After the fight with Leo, they had to take him to the hospital in an ambulance. Mom was scared they'd sue us. I had to clean up the blood while Mom took Claire to the hospital. Is there anything else you want to tell me?" "No, pretty quiet," Ethan replied, his voice flat. "One more thing," Chloe said hesitantly. "Mom's upset you hung up on her again." "Yeah, I figured," Ethan muttered. "I called to let you know I got a new job. I start Monday, in case the cops come asking where I am." "Don't worry," Chloe reassured him. "Leo didn't press charges, though I think his wife wanted him to. The police won't come after you. But why all the secrecy about the transfer? Is that why you've been acting strange?" Ethan sighed heavily. "The transfer, it made me realize a lot of things. I spent too long letting life just happen to me. I've been disrespecting myself, and that's why things fell apart. I'm getting back on track now. Are you okay, Dad? No health issues or anything?" Chloe asked, concern lacing her voice. "Not really," Ethan answered quietly. "You and your mom know what's going on. Just tell her I'm fine and not to worry." "Okay, Dad. Will you pick up when I call? I'd like to keep in touch." Ethan hesitated. The thought of hearing from her, especially with all the unresolved tension, stirred something in him. He loved her, but her tone had been careless, and it hurt more than he wanted to admit. "If you call when I'm not working, I'll pick up," he said after a pause. "What about Mom? Can she call?" Chloe's voice dropped. "She asked if you'd answer just to yell at her." Ethan felt a sharp pang. "She shouldn't bother," he said quickly. "But if there's something serious, something about the house or family, she should call. That sounds fair, right?" Chloe asked, though there was a note of frustration in her voice. "I'll tell her. Good luck with your new job. Stay warm." "Is it cold there now?" she asked, her voice softening. "Better than I expected," Ethan replied, brushing off the concern. "Don't worry about me. I'm fine. Goodbye." As soon as Chloe ended the call, Lila was on her, peppering her with questions. What did he say? Did he apologize? Is he afraid to come home? What did he say about me? "He's not scared of anything," Chloe answered, trying to keep her voice steady. "He said he won't get respect unless he starts respecting himself. That's why he cut Leo off and keeps hanging up on you. He said if you want to talk to him, you'll need to show him more respect." Lila's expression tightened. "He's the one who attacked a guest in our house over a football jersey and keeps hanging up on me. Next time I talk to him, I'm telling him exactly what I think." Exactly why he's hanging up, Chloe snapped, her patience thinning. He won't listen to you if you're disrespectful. Leo's the only one getting anything out of this unless you find yourself another boyfriend. Why do you keep making these comments? Lila demanded, her frustration rising. Because it's the truth, Chloe shot back. Leo laughed at Dad. Not just because the Cowboys beat the Eagles, but because he slept with Dad's wife. That's enough to drive anyone crazy. But Dad doesn't even know that Leo was hinting at it. Lila shook her head. Ethan knew Leo was being an idiot. That's why he put him in his place. No one should disrespect someone in their own home. Even if Ethan didn't know about the affair, any man would be angry. Leo had no right. Fine, Lila said, her voice hardening. I'm done talking about this. You live under my roof, and you will show me respect. On Wednesday evening, Ethan was by the pool, enjoying the peace of his new routine, when his phone rang. Seeing it was Lila, he let it go to voicemail. Later, he listened to the message. Ethan, I know you're screening my calls. Please call me back. We need to make some decisions about the house. Who's going to shovel the driveway? Should we sign a fuel oil delivery contract? Which company should we use? Please call me back. There was no hostility in her voice this time, just a sense of practicality, and Ethan decided to return the call. Thanks for calling, Lila said calmly when he picked up. I'm worried about the things you usually take care of around the house, now that it's snowing. What should I do? I'll make a list and email it to you, Ethan promised, not wanting to leave her in a bind. I should have thought of that, Lila murmured. Then, after a pause, she asked, Are you coming home for Christmas? Mom and Dad invited us for dinner, and your parents want to see us on Christmas Eve. It's awkward telling them you're not responding to their calls. I don't know yet, Ethan replied, his voice distant. I'll let you know, but tell them they need to be polite if they want me to answer their calls. Every message I get, even from my mom, feels hostile. I don't need that right now. Lila sighed. I'll tell them, but I'm not sure it'll make a difference. They weren't happy with how you treated Leo, or that you left right after. Ethan's tone softened. You can still come home if you want. Lila's voice broke with emotion, catching Ethan off guard. Chloe and I would love to see you. We'll try not to make any stupid comments. Do you miss being with me? Ethan's heart twisted at the question, but he didn't want to be cruel. I've always enjoyed being with you, he said carefully, avoiding the truth. He didn't want to admit how disconnected he felt since learning about her affair. Every moment was special. Lila let out a small sob. You're the best lover I've ever had. I miss you so much. Please come home for Christmas. Let's see if I can get time off, Ethan said, keeping his voice steady. I'll check with work, but I'll email you that list for the house. I'll figure it out. Lila smiled, her tone lifting. After hanging up, she turned to Chloe. Is he really the world's best lover? Chloe raised an eyebrow. Leo might not like hearing that. He thinks he's number one. Lila sighed, a little sadness creeping into her voice. I've told you before, be careful with Leo. Your father was better than Leo in bed. Leo's more fun but not better. When Leo hears that, he'll probably be pleased to know that his wife thinks he's better than her other boyfriend. What man wouldn't be proud of that? Chloe watched her mother leave the room, tears in her eyes. She felt the weight of the situation settle around her. Meanwhile, Ethan was enjoying his new life, swimming daily, soaking in the sun, and feeling comfortable in his new role at the plant. What surprised him most was the number of single women, widows, and divorcees in his condo, all eager to chat and spend time with him once they realized he could fix things around the house. His skills made him popular, and the women often showed their appreciation with meals, baked goods, or bottles of wine and beer left at his door. A few days before Christmas, Lila urged Ethan to come home for the holidays. After fixing a closet door for Mrs. Brooks, Ethan was about to leave when he turned around and was taken aback. She was standing there, completely unclothed. Ethan, I don't have much, but I have needs. Will you make love to me? She asked, her voice low and almost pleading. Ethan froze, his mind racing. He had never cheated on Lila. They had shared everything, and the idea of betraying his marriage made him feel sick. Megan was attractive, but he wasn't ready to make such a rash decision. He needed to figure things out first. "I need to sort out my marriage. After Christmas, I'll know more," Ethan said, his voice tight. "I've never cheated before, but I can't promise that won't change soon. I'll let you know." Megan nodded slowly, covering herself. "I understand," she said, her voice softer. "If you end things with your wife, you'll have plenty of women here to keep you company." Ethan's chest tightened, but he didn't respond. He had enough on his plate already. Later, he called Lila to let her know he had tried to make it home for Christmas Eve. He was surprised at how relieved she sounded, even happy. The thought of seeing Chloe and Lila again softened his resolve. He decided to head north, planning to drive halfway the first day, shop on the second, and reach home before Christmas Eve. But when Ethan reached his street at 9 a.m., he was stunned. Several cars were parked in his driveway, including a few that he recognized. Lila was hosting her usual holiday gathering for her Home Depot friends. As he approached the front door, he saw Leo in the kitchen. Anger flared in Ethan's chest, but he pushed it down, not wanting to ruin the mood of the holiday. He decided to sneak in through the basement and wait until Leo left. 2 hours later, Ethan awoke from a light nap on the old sofa in the basement. The house was eerily quiet. Curious, he peeked outside and saw only one car left. Slowly, he made his way upstairs. When he reached the kitchen, he froze. Lila and Leo were there. Leo kissed her, his hand moving down her body. Ethan's stomach churned, his fists clenched. For a moment, the urge to lash out almost overtook him, but he forced himself to stay calm. It wasn't worth it, not again. Instead, Ethan quietly snuck up to the guest room, turned off the lights, and waited in the darkness. He knew what was coming next. It was only a matter of time before Lila would go to the master bedroom to prepare for Leo. As he sat there in the dim light, Ethan heard the shower running, and his anger surged again. He waited until he heard Leo's footsteps nearing the top of the stairs. Ethan then moved quickly, kicking Leo hard in the jaw. Leo flew backward, crashing down the stairs, his body crumpling at the bottom, unconscious. The shower continued to run in the distance. Ethan stood frozen, his heart pounding. He didn't know if Leo was dead, but it didn't matter, he had just taken things too far. Panic set in. If Leo was dead, Ethan knew he'd be in serious trouble. He hurried down the stairs, stepping over Leo's body without a second glance. Ethan grabbed his coat and left the house, his mind racing. He had to get away. 2 hours later, he was 100 miles away, still in a daze. He checked into a cheap motel before dawn, paying in cash, and collapsed onto the bed. He had no idea what would happen next, but he knew he needed to stay away from both Leo and Lila. There was no turning back. Ethan reflected on his life as he lay there in the quiet motel room. He had been betrayed, both by Lila and by his own actions. But despite it all, the emptiness of his hotel room, the loneliness, gnawed at him. Lila and Chloe had once been everything to him. He didn't know how to move on, but he knew he had to. As noon approached, his phone rang. Seeing that it was his parents, he ignored it, unwilling to explain why he missed Christmas or why he'd attacked Leo. He couldn't face them, not yet. Half an hour later, he summoned the courage to check the voicemail. "Ethan, it's your father. Call us when you get this. Something serious happened at your house, but Lila and Chloe are fine." The message was enough to send a chill down Ethan's spine. He called his father immediately. "What happened?" he asked, his voice tight with concern. "Son, it's Leo," his father explained. "He was at your house last night. He fell down the stairs and is seriously injured, broken jaw, arm, ribs, and a concussion. His wife found out about Lila and got there before the ambulance. She was furious, tried to attack Lila, and even tried to throw Leo off the gurney. It was a mess." Ethan's heart pounded. He hadn't meant to hurt Leo that badly. He hadn't meant for things to spiral out of control. His father continued, "After Thanksgiving, we thought you were overreacting, but now we see why you did what you did. Your mother and I are proud of you. You showed more restraint than I would have. Thanks, Dad, Ethan replied, his voice filled with relief. How's Chloe? Was she home during all of this? That's another issue, his father said. Chloe had a serious talk with us this morning. She spent the night at a friend's, but she admitted she knew about Lila's affair. She wanted to keep the family together until she finished school and then planned to tell you. We're disappointed, but we hugged it out. Thanks for being there for her. Ethan's heart sank. Where are you really? I know you said you were transferred, but Michigan in December seems extreme. The company transferred me to Daytona Beach, his father explained. I got a promotion, a big raise, and a small apartment. I'm the maintenance supervisor now. That's great, Ethan said, forcing a smile. Would you and Mom want to visit in February? I'd love to have you down here. Anytime, Ethan. Just don't tell Lila where I am. I don't want to deal with her right now.
Understood, son.
But you should talk to Chloe. She's pretty down about all of this. She thinks you knew about the affair, and that's why you've been cold to them. Did you know she knew? I need to go, Dad. We'll talk more later. Thanks for everything. Love you both, Ethan said, ending the call. When Ethan returned to his apartment on Christmas Eve, the loneliness hit him hard. He hadn't expected to be alone, and the weight of it all felt suffocating. He opened a beer, turned on the TV, and sat down to try to numb the pain. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. I saw your light and came to wish you a Merry Christmas, Megan Brooks said, standing in the doorway. It's not good to be alone on Christmas. You haven't made peace with your wife yet, have you? Ethan looked at her, his heart heavy. That's a fair guess, he replied bitterly. Her boyfriend was supposed to sleep in my bed. I hate crowds, Megan said, stepping closer. But what about just one woman? Ethan paused, feeling the weight of her presence. It wasn't what he expected, but the temptation was there. I might make you move a bit, but I don't think you'll mind, he said. Megan smirked. What do you say, Ethan? Maybe it's time to forget about all of this for a night. Ethan considered her offer. I'd like that, he said finally. But just so you know, I haven't had sex in a while. I might not be great at it. I guess if I had been, my wife wouldn't have looked elsewhere. I doubt you're the problem, Megan replied, her tone warm but matter-of-fact. A man as kind and thoughtful as you is bound to be great in bed. Do you have rubbers? No, Ethan admitted with a slight laugh. Haven't used them in 20 years. I guess I have a lot to learn about dating again. Your future partners will appreciate it if you do, Megan said, her voice soft but firm. It's a smart and responsible choice. Ethan nodded, though the thought made him feel strangely out of place. He had spent years devoted to a woman who had betrayed him, and now here he was, navigating a world he hardly recognized. But as he spent more time with Megan, he began to feel something he hadn't in a long time, a flicker of self-worth. His anger toward Lila and Chloe started to fade, replaced by the sweet, simple connection he found with Megan. For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt that life was still worth living. Megan left early Christmas morning, saying she didn't want to stir up any gossip. They agreed to meet later at the pool, where they shared a home-cooked meal and a quiet evening together. It wasn't love, but it was something that helped him heal. By 9 p.m., Ethan returned to his apartment, feeling a sense of peace that was new to him. He knew his visits to Megan's place hadn't gone unnoticed. A few minutes after settling in, his phone rang. Dad, you didn't come home for Christmas, Chloe said, her voice tinged with regret. I don't blame you. Mom's a mess and I feel awful too. I'm sorry for what we did. I knew it was wrong, but I wanted you two to stay together until I finished school. Ethan sighed, leaning back against the couch. It's in the past, he said softly. But I won't lie, it hurt me deeply. I never knew your mom was so unhappy, and I didn't expect you to help her keep it a secret. I'm trying to get through this, but it's tough. Strange thing is, Chloe continued, her voice breaking slightly, Mom's not unhappy with you. She says you're a good husband, father, and lover. She just wanted to try something different, and now she regrets it. Ethan felt his stomach twist. Did you know about her and Leo on Thanksgiving? Yes, Chloe admitted. And I should have handled it better. But Leo pushed me too far with his disrespect. Ethan's chest tightened, a mixture of anger and hurt. I saw Leo's grin that day and knew exactly what he was doing. Mom said it was about the cowboy shirt, but I knew better. There was a long pause before Chloe spoke again. Did you miss my last 2 matches because of me? Yes, Ethan admitted. But when Leo said he'd be there, I knew I couldn't go without causing a scene. Chloe's voice softened. Did you hear Leo that day when I brought the spare tire? You knew what he was up to, didn't you? I did, Ethan replied. I knew, but I also knew I couldn't get involved, not without making things worse. I'm sorry, Dad, Chloe said quietly. I was selfish, and now I'm paying for it. Ethan took a deep breath. Don't blame yourself. I should have confronted your mom then, but I was too angry. I might have done something I'd regret. You wouldn't hurt Mom, Chloe said, her voice confident. But Leo's a different story. Ethan was silent for a moment. Grandpa told me Leo fell down our stairs last night. He's pretty banged up, but he'll recover. By the way, I found the laptop you left me for Thanksgiving in the basement. Ethan chuckled. Thanks so much. I'll use it a lot, especially for college next year. I'm glad you like it, Ethan replied, realizing he'd forgotten about the gifts. Did you find the one for your mother? Chloe paused. She cried when she saw the pearls. It made her feel even worse about how she treated you. Ethan's heart sank. It's funny, he said with a wry smile. I didn't even see the gifts until a few days before Christmas when I was looking for new tree lights. Thank you for being such a good father, Chloe. I'm starting to appreciate you more. Don't be upset, Chloe said gently. When I was your age, I thought my parents were clueless, but they got smarter over the years. Ethan chuckled softly. I just want you to be happy and live a good life. Don't worry about me. I love you, Dad. Maybe I'll visit you this winter, his father said. I didn't tell you the whole truth about my transfer. The company moved me to Daytona Beach. I've got a small place here, and you're welcome to visit anytime. There's a pool outside, and the ocean's just a couple of blocks away. Ethan laughed, a real laugh this time. Are you kidding? If Mom and I knew that, we would have gone with you. But I get it. We didn't deserve to be with you after all we did. I don't blame you for not telling us. We lied to you, so you had the right to keep something from us. Yeah, this is going to hit Mom hard, his father said, his voice sad. But you don't have to tell her, though it's not a secret anymore. I'll email her my address so we can sort out the divorce without me having to go back. Are you divorcing Mom? Chloe asked softly. I get it, and I don't blame you, Ethan said. I warned her about Leo, but she thought you'd never find out. I wish things had turned out differently. Good night, Dad. I'll try to visit. Great. Good night and Merry Christmas. As Ethan ended the call, he felt the weight of the past year start to settle in. But there was a sense of finality in it all. He was moving forward, even if it was without the family he had once hoped to hold together. The following morning, Lila confronted Chloe about Ethan's whereabouts. Did I hear right that your father isn't in Michigan? Where is he, and why did he lie to us? Lila demanded. He's at his company's new plant in Daytona Beach, Chloe replied calmly. He didn't lie. He said he was being transferred. We just assumed it was Michigan. He didn't tell us because he was there when you called me to bring the spare tire to the motel. He heard everything and knew who you were with. He didn't feel obligated to consider us. Lila's face reddened. Why didn't he say anything then? Was he afraid of Leo? Afraid of Leo? Are you serious? Chloe shot back. Dad wiped the floor with Leo. Leo's no match for him in a fight. We're raising a family. You always try to find faults in Dad to justify your actions. You'd better not treat your next husband the way you treated Dad. Next husband? What did your father tell you? Lila asked, her voice rising. He's done with your lies and deception, Chloe said coldly. He's considering divorce, just like I warned you he would. Lila's face crumpled. I don't want a divorce. I don't even like Leo. None of this would have happened if he hadn't fallen down the stairs, she whined. Didn't you listen? Chloe snapped. You were doomed the day I brought you the spare tire at the motel. Dad was there, saw everything, and knew how much we disrespected him. He knows you lied, cheated, and by Thanksgiving you were already a divorced woman in his eyes. Leo isn't to blame, you are. Maybe now that Leo's wife is divorcing him, you two can be together, Chloe suggested bitterly. Lila's face softened, tears welling up in her eyes. I don't want Leo. I want Ethan back. The next day, things took another turn. Lila called her father, frantically explaining the latest disaster. Mom got a letter from the health department. Leo has an STD, and now Mom has to get tested and inform everyone she's been with. You're on her list and you'll get a letter soon. Ethan's heart sank. Wow, I should have seen this coming, he muttered. I'll make an appointment today. Thanks for telling me right away. I appreciate you looking out for me. I was lost for a while, but I'm back on track. Take care, Dad. Ethan immediately arranged for a checkup, feeling an odd mix of relief and responsibility. When the results came in, he was pleased to learn that he was healthy. Megan had been careful, and he had been diligent about preventing any risk. On his way home, he bought a variety of rubbers and placed a bowl filled with them on his bedside table. He vowed never to let his guard down when it came to preventable risks. As time passed, Ethan's life became more social. His free time was increasingly filled with requests from the women in his condo, helping with tasks here and there, offering a hand when needed. Word had spread, and it wasn't long before his reputation as a considerate, easygoing man who was always prepared for the unexpected grew. One evening, Megan confessed with a sly grin that she had mentioned his skills to a few women. As a result, Ethan found himself regularly replenishing the rubber bowl by his bedside. The women who visited him appreciated his proactive approach to health, which only added to his appeal. It was just before Easter when Ethan was caught off guard by a visit from Chloe. She showed up with a small suitcase in hand and, before he could even speak, she wrapped him in a tight hug. I'm so sorry, Dad. Please forgive me. Can I stay for a few days? I'll leave if you want me to. Ethan, surprised but happy to see her, took a moment before responding. You're always welcome here, he said, smiling warmly. Come on, I'll show you to the room. You're looking all grown up now. Chloe laughed, turning to give him a playful look. I told you I finally filled out in all the right places. I'm the same size as Mom now, though honestly, it fits me better. Mom's getting pretty thin. She paused, looking around the condo. I hitched a ride with the Foster. They're headed to Orlando, so they dropped me off. I knew you'd let me stay. It's spring break, and I'll only be here for a few days before I head back to the cold. This place is amazing. It's smaller than our house, but it has everything I need, including a heated pool right outside. Ethan grinned as she looked around. Looks like you're getting everything you need, he said, with a hint of pride. Chloe's eyes landed on the dish of rubbers on his bedside table, and she raised an eyebrow with a smirk. Good for you, Dad. You deserve some happiness after everything. Don't worry, I won't bother you. I'll just relax by the pool while you're at work. Haven't seen the sun in forever. Tomorrow evening we'll go out to dinner, Ethan said, warming to the idea of spending time with her. There are great spots here, ribs, steak, seafood, you name it. I'll take you to a place where the guys from work hang out. Let them see how gorgeous my daughter is. The next evening, Ethan and Chloe sat in a cozy rib joint, enjoying their meal and talking more than they had in ages. Why did you forgive me, Dad? Chloe asked, her voice full of remorse. I don't know if I would have if I were you. It was a huge mistake to help Mom with her infidelity. I hate myself for it, and I'm truly sorry. Ethan took a deep breath before replying, his voice gentle but firm. I'm much happier with you around than without you, he said with a small smile. In that sense, I'm selfish. It makes me happy to have you here, and now that you are, it's become one of my life's goals to be there for you. Chloe's eyes softened. I'm glad you feel that way, she said sincerely. We've always been close, and I hated myself when I realized how much I pushed you away. Do you think you'll ever forgive Mom? She's not doing well without you. She's lost weight and barely goes out. Ethan exhaled, his eyes distant for a moment. When the rumors spread about Leo having an STD, half the employees at the store were terrified. Leo seems to have gotten it from a new cashier, infecting a lot of people. Mom was the only manager on the list for testing, and that was awkward for her. He paused, taking a sip of his drink before continuing. Your mother and I agreed to be partners. Partners should trust each other. They should be honest. And I don't trust her anymore. Chloe nodded, her expression understanding. I get that, especially after meeting your Herm at the pool today. It was awkward having so many women asking me about you. From the way they talked, I knew at least 4 of them were sleeping with you. Ethan let out a laugh, though it was tinged with embarrassment. Seriously, they all think I'm a sensitive, honest, attractive man who's pretty good in bed, Chloe added with a smirk. I'm not sure about that, Ethan replied modestly. I have a few friends who visit now and then. I don't think they see me as anything special. It's more like I'm just available. Mom made a huge mistake, Chloe said, her voice filled with conviction. Can I come here after I finish school and look for a summer job? I'm thinking about going to college nearby. Can I stay with you? I can't live with her anymore. We don't get along anymore. Her betrayal hurt me more than I realized. Ethan, eager for the chance to spend more time with her, agreed without hesitation. Of course, I'd love to have you here. Their conversations continued regularly after spring break ended. Though Chloe insisted Ethan not attend her graduation, she promised him they'd see each other in Florida soon. The next day, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, Ethan opened his door to greet Chloe, but froze in shock when he saw Lila standing there. For what felt like an eternity, he couldn't move, his mind reeling, but it was only 10 or 15 seconds. Slowly, he regained some composure. Come on in, Lila. Can I get you a drink? Ethan asked, his voice automatic, trying to process why she was here. Thanks, Ethan. That would be great, Lila replied, her tone strangely neutral. He led her to the kitchen, poured them both iced tea, and sat down across from her, still uncertain of what to expect. I came to pick up Chloe, Lila explained, breaking the silence. She told me she's living here with you. I've changed jobs and moved to Dayton. We need to figure out what to do with the house. Ethan raised an eyebrow, still surprised. You moved to Dayton? What made you decide to come here? Lila sighed, her voice tinged with something he couldn't quite place. You never filed for divorce, and we haven't spoken in a while. I'm not sure what you want to do with the house or with anything. What do you think will happen? Lila joked lightly, but Ethan could see the tension behind her words. I think I'm done with freezing every winter, Lila admitted, her voice heavy with regret. With Chloe in college in Florida, I don't have much of a reason to stay. It's just gossip in that town now. I'm not sure what Chloe told you, but your parents don't talk to me, and mine aren't any better. I've let down a lot of people, including myself, but mostly you. She paused, gathering her thoughts. I can't ask for forgiveness. My actions were unforgivable. But I'm looking for a fresh start. Somewhere people won't mock me for being a pop. By the way, I'm glad I didn't pass it on to you. I think you stopped seeing Ryan by the time Leo gave me his gift. I'm responsible for what happened to us and for trying to blame you, Leo, the girl who infected him, even the guy who wrote that letter. But Leo went down, and I realized it was all on me. I ruined my life and tried to ruin yours. If you hadn't found out, you'd have been stuck with Leo's little present too. I regret it so much. I don't know what I was thinking back then, like I was entitled to a fling. I dragged Chloe into all this, and I'll never forgive myself for that. I nearly destroyed her relationship with her father because I was a selfish brat. I kept telling myself Leo was an idiot, that this would end badly. She exhaled, her face softening. But I didn't listen. I'm so glad you welcomed her back into your life. Your love and approval mean the world to her. It meant a lot to me before I lost my way. And now I'd do anything to get it back. Lila cleared her throat. I think we should start making a list of things to sell and split the money. What do you think? Ethan didn't respond right away. He'd been listening. His emotions swirled in a mixture of pity, frustration, and disbelief. I assumed you had already filed for divorce, he said, his voice sharp. Isn't Leo single now? That's what I've heard, Lila replied. But if you're asking if I care about that idiot, no, I don't. I'm a fool, but not so much that I'd get Leo to divorce me. Ethan leaned back, his eyes narrowing slightly. I thought you'd already divorced me. I've given you plenty of reasons, he said, his voice calm but firm. I'm pretty content with what I'm doing here. You know how much I hate change, and divorce can be pretty disruptive. We should discuss this now, don't you think? Lila shifted uncomfortably. I guess so. If it were up to me, I'd like to stay married. But my past actions really don't support that, do they? I know you're too good of a man to stay with a lying, cheating wife. I knew it all along, but I kept telling myself, he'll never know. She met his gaze. Where are you staying tonight? Ethan hesitated before answering. I'm going to find a motel after I leave here. I saw one near Highway 95, close to Home Depot, he said, pausing to think about it. You mentioned you're starting work there next week? Yeah, Lila nodded. Chloe's gone grocery shopping, so we have some time to talk. She'll be back soon, but I need to go soon myself. Ethan thought for a moment before offering. Chloe's room has 2 single beds. You could stay there if she doesn't mind. Lila looked unsure. Won't that make you uncomfortable? I know I'm not her favorite person right now, and I deserve that. But if Chloe's okay with it, I'll be fine. We'll ask her when she gets back. Chloe didn't mind at all. Lila stayed in Chloe's room, and over the next few days, the 3 of them began falling back into old routines. Ethan kept his distance from the pool and the other women while Lila was living with him. He didn't want to hurt her, though he could see the subtle tension when they interacted. The women who came to the pool would occasionally ask, "When are you leaving?" One evening, after Chloe had gone to a concert, Lila sighed, sitting down with Ethan. They always talk about your big bowl of rubbers and which ones they like best. It's actually pretty funny when you think about it. They stop just short of telling me I ruined their lives. Ethan stiffened but kept his tone light. Have you really pleased 4 women, Ethan? I'm impressed, Lila added with a dry chuckle. Too bad I didn't make more of an impression on you before I met Leo. His temper flared. I'm not going to apologize for making them happy. None of those women are married, and they know I'm not looking for commitment. I try to give them as much pleasure as I can, and they enjoy it. How about some fun with me? Lila's voice dropped lower, her eyes meeting his with an odd mixture of defiance and guilt. No strings attached. I feel like I owe you for taking such good care of me after what I did. Ethan shook his head, setting boundaries. I'm not the same guy you remember, he said firmly. I'm more demanding and assertive now. I tell these women what I want and they seem to like it. I don't let any of them stay more than 1 night, so if you want to stay with me for just 1 night, I can handle it. It'll make me feel better about what I did, and I'll do my best to make you feel better, too. Lila promised, and Ethan took a few moments to process her words. 10 minutes later, they were in his bed, their clothes discarded. My God! Lila gasped between breaths, her voice full of astonishment. That was amazing. You've learned some new tricks, thanks, Ethan. Later, as Lila was moving her things from Ethan's room to Chloe's, she heard Chloe's voice from the hallway. You 2 are loud enough. Glad you're done so I can get some sleep. Lila continued to stay with Chloe and Ethan throughout the summer. She slept in Chloe's second bed and visited Ethan often. She frequently told him he was the only man she'd ever be with. Ethan just nodded in agreement, though something inside him stirred with discomfort. After their first night together, Ethan noticed Lila's strange obsession with the bowl of rubbers. She counted them repeatedly, almost as if trying to keep him from seeing other women in the building. She didn't like it when he spent time with them. She was becoming possessive, trying to hold onto whatever shred of connection they had. At least twice a week, she would come home after her shift to find fresh sheets on Ethan's bed and a couple of rubbers missing. As she had to leave for work at 2 p.m., she spent most of her mornings lounging by the pool. The other women weren't cruel to her, though it was clear they knew the state of her marriage and her role in its collapse. Lila could sense when one of them made a comment or asked a question. It was always a subtle hint. One morning, Megan Brooks asked, "Lila, did you pick out the new blue bedding for Ethan's room? It goes nicely with the curtains and carpet, doesn't it?" "Yes, Diana, it's lovely. A very masculine color," Lila replied, her tone neutral. That evening, Lila voiced her frustration to Ethan. "Ethan, you don't want these women in your bed. I'll give you as much sex as you want. Aren't I enough for you?" Ethan's response was quick and direct. "Exactly. I won't see any of these women again." Lila's eyes narrowed. "Then why are there 2 rubbers missing from the bowl today? How does everyone know the color of your bedding?" Ethan smiled, though his expression was unreadable. "I honestly have no idea.